Hello, 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 and welcome to another Paul or Nothing spin-off show. This is Macca in your attic, where my guest is always due to show me their junk. Yes, me and my guest today are going to go through their attic, as it were, and look at 5 cool, strange, interesting, unique, rare, or maybe even just sentimental items from their McCartney / Beatle collections. Today, I'm joined by someone who, well, actually wanted to get them back on anything I was doing as soon as possible. We did an episode of Paul or Nothing recently where we covered MTV Unplugged, the live McCartney album. And yeah, we had so much fun there. I needed to get him back on something else. I thought I'd have to contrive something, but fortunately, Macca in your attic is always there. He is he has a long list of credits, actually. He is an author, assistant professor at the University of Canberra, actor, artistic director. But the reason he's here today is because of his contributions to the indomitable One Sweet Dream podcast, including most recently, I think it's a 3-part series. I think part 2 just came out recently of Ram. This series that they're doing is literally the best thing ever. Enough chit chat. Please welcome back Dr. Duncan Driver. What's going on, dude?
Hello. Lovely to be back. And thank you for the superlative introduction. It's always lovely to hear oneself described in glowing terms.
Well, everyone I have on this show is inevitably a writer at some point, writing about McCartney or Beatles. But it's always nice to see your name up there in the big old lights of my weird little corner of podcasting, I guess. I always try to make people feel special, But yeah, thank you for coming on, man. This is going to be an interesting one. Like you said off air just recently, this is a bit more of a quick prepared episode, shall we say. But are you a long-time collector, or are you more just like a casual fan?
No. Well, I would describe myself more than a casual fan, but I'm certainly not a collector, really. I went through a binge in my tweens, and then a purge at around the age of 30, when, for whatever reason, I just decided to either give away or sell or junk pretty much everything I had. I don't know what it was. I just sort of decided to turn my back on all things Beatles. And I now wish that I'd never done that, because I'm probably more into them at this point in my life than I ever was in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I still had some of those items, like my Beatles anthology book, which I can't bring to show you because I have no idea what became of it.
Oh no, Beatles anthology
Many
book.
other things.
Oh gosh.
Too. Yeah. So I'm not really a collector. I don't own a record player, and I have no vinyl. So it's a shame, and I feel embarrassed to be on a Macca in Your Attic episode dedicated to collections when mine is so paltry.
To be fair, the last episode we had, there was only one vinyl on as well. We are getting less and less vinyl on the show, but I think a lot of the people who are coming on are asking me for video links so they can look at what's been brought on. They're like, oh well, I've got to do something a bit better than that. And I'm certainly going to encourage that competition. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, so you started in your tweens. Do you remember buying anything with your money for the very first time, your very first Beatle item?
Yeah, I do actually. It was a version of Chobber, which was housed inside a small red wooden case. So it had a little brass clasp that you could open and lift like a sort of a standard CD dual case, but it was made of wood. And again, another rare item that I once owned, and it may have ended up in a tip, a dump.
Oh God!
I haven't the faintest idea where it is.
That's not what I wanted to hear. Really, that's really nice. You're killing me here. You're breaking my heart.
I know, and I tell that to you partly because I know that you are someone who collects different versions of Chobber just for the shade of color on the cover.
Yeah, totally. No, totally. The one I need to get still, it's a rather than black and white, it's yellow and white. It's like an inverted weird filter with pink lettering. Very strange. I must have it. It's probably going to be hundreds and hundreds of pounds though.
Probably.
Yeah. So, have you noticed any real difference between the post and pre-internet world of collecting Beatles memorabilia?
Not from my very limited, obscured vantage point that doesn't have that much of an eye or a window into collections. I don't know. I'd hazard a guess that people are probably less into collecting rare video in the world of YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Actually, yeah, you don't
I
collect
find it
clips
weird that
anymore.
people would link on say a Facebook site or whatever to an interview with John Lennon from 1972 and call it an ultra rare interview. It always makes me want to say, if it's on YouTube, it's not rare anymore.
By default, yeah. Revolution Take 20, rare take. It's like, it's just something that exists. Yeah, exactly.
It's rare if it's not online. That's probably the definition in these days.
So you are my first guest from down south. What's the record store scene like down in Australia?
It's good in Melbourne and Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Less good in Canberra. There is a really cool place called Landspeed Records, which is run by an appropriately cantankerous individual. So you want something like a high fidelity experience when you go into a specialist store.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think you get it in Landspeed Records.
And that's why they pay him the big bucks, Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that's right. There was a place that used to exist in Canberra called Impact Records, and most of my teenage KFC dollars, that's money I earned at KFC working as a cook rather than money I spent at KFC.
Oh yeah. I thought you were saying like money your mom had given you to go to KFC. Make sure you go buy a chicken bucket and don't spend it on no meals.
Money I earned at KFC was spent at Impact Records. It's great, this huge sort of basement shop that had, amongst a lot of CDs and vinyl, it had a huge comics section as well. So all of my adolescent enthusiasms were taken care of in one shop. And I loved the logo. It had, the logo was green, green background, black lettering, and it had the cover of Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures, with their kind of EKG.
Yeah.
Awesome. But that is black on a green background. It was brilliant. I wish I'd kept some of their little bags just as a memento of the shop that no longer exists.
Well, I reckon they probably don't exist anymore, probably because they got copyright sued, by Joy Division. Just the way of the world, folks. I'm afraid. What do you think about the kind of fandom at the moment, though, in terms of collecting? Obviously, there's a lot of vocalization on places like Facebook and forums now. People are either really happy about the glut of Beatle and solo Beatle content we're getting, as well as multiple versions of all of that content as well. Some people seem to be very upset. Where do you lie here? Are you one of the fat cats, or are you singing the Internationale with all of us?
I suppose the only point that I'd make is I'd love for the Beatles to create their own version of something like a streaming service. So like the Beatles website, and they could release every take of every song, all of the video footage that they currently have, all of their official releases, obviously. But everything that Apple has could be in one place, and I would pay a monthly fee to subscribe to that service.
£10, £12, I'll pay.
Yeah,
I'll pay $12.99 for that. Give me the first month free.
I'm not really talking about collecting. I'm talking about access to content. So I didn't really answer your question. I'm sorry.
No. Let's riff with this. I love the idea of a Beatles streaming service. That sounds so cool. Oh, and they are one of the few bands that would be big enough to do it as well, because they're just this multimedia empire. You can have the Beatles cartoons on there as well. Oh,
that's right. And then all of the solo artists could do it too. So people like you and me, when we're deciding to make a podcast about something incredibly specific, can hunt down exactly what we're looking for. Spend hours researching it on their official websites. It'd be so cool to hear all of the between song chatter. I'd love all of the Zapple releases, the spoken word releases on the Apple label from the late 60s.
They better have the short avant-garde films McCartney was making in '66. If they're not on there, then I am not subscribing, folks.
No, I want that too. I want their home video footage. I want their private archives of Instamatic photos, everything.
I want them to get an algorithm to get John Lennon to do modern like YouTube interviews. Like John Lennon breaks down his most famous songs.
It's only a matter of time. I'm sure that the deep fake John Lennon is well into development at this point.
Just get Robert Carlyle to do it. He's clearly up for playing Lennon.
Yeah, that's right. What's the name of that actor that's played John twice? Once in Backbeat, and he played John in Backbeat, and then he did it again for that terrific TV film called
Two of Us.
No, it had a different name. Snodgrass.
Oh, the one where it's like Lennon doesn't become famous. That one.
Yeah, so it's an alternate universe in which John and the rest of the band had a row over releasing How Do You Do It as their first single. John lost, and the rest of the band, controlled by Paul, did that and kind of became a Jerry and the Pacemakers, whereas John just drifted into obscurity and leads this kind of very meek, bitter, resentful existence. But it's a wonderful hour or so of TV, and I think you can watch it on YouTube.
I think so, yeah. I'm sure the algorithm has linked me to it before.
Sorry, that's my father trying to FaceTime me. I'm just going to get.
Dad, I'm doing a podcast.
He's in lockdown, so I'll call him back.
Fair enough. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, and with that, let's move on to our items today, folks.
Okay.
Right. Like I say, I'm normally a little bit privy to what people are going to, show me. Sometimes they either send me lists uninvited, or they say, oh, I've got this kind of thing. Would that be appropriate? I have no idea what we're going to see today, folks. So I'm excited.
I didn't have much of an idea until today either, when I started scanning the shelves going, of the paltry amount that I have, what should I bring on? But shall I start with number one?
Numero uno. What do we have?
Numero uno is this copy of Band on the Run. And if you're listening to pure audio and you can't see it, this is a DTS high definition surround sound version of Band on the Run, which I believe is official. And I choose it as item number one, partly as a message to MPL that what a fan like me wants in archive editions is a surround sound version of the album. And it's frustrating that every Beatles Ultra Deluxe release, every Lennon Ultra Deluxe release, the All Things Must Pass that's coming, they all have Dolby Atmos and surround sound versions in high def.
Yeah.
But Paul has never done that on a single archive release. And so you have to go hunting for them. They do in some cases exist, but they are rare. So
this is just a case of an independent company going, oh, this album isn't in high definition. We'll get permission and put out a limited like run of it. That's so strange.
I think it may be official. It may be official because it has a very official looking booklet which talks about Jeff Emmerich and Alan O'Duffy creating this mix.
Oh, wow.
So at some point in time, when CDs were first being developed, and
so they had it and didn't put it on the archive release. That's almost worse then. A Jeff Emmerich official version. It's not like some YouTube version where they've done like read on the mix or something like that.
I can see on the CD that it was from 1996, and it is an EMI Capital official release. It was ludicrously expensive. Like it was well over $100 for one CD. But to be able to listen to Band on the Run through 4 separate channels with separate instruments is worth it. And once or twice a year, I will put it on and listen to it from start to finish.
Are there any like
the last 2 songs sound amazing?
I was going to say,
so
what
Picasso's last words puts you right in the middle of the party. And you haven't heard 1985 until you've heard the orchestra swelling from behind you. It's fantastic. So I
Oh,
just
I'm
wanted to let
jealous.
people know that this exists apart from anything else.
Yeah, not only though, like it's a special kind of elitism surround sound, because not only do you need the special album that plays it, you need the setup as well, and then
Yeah.
not everyone can experience what I'm experiencing. That is the pleasure I would feel, you know.
Yes, that's right. The joy of knowing that other people have it worse than you and feeling
Yes.
superior to them.
Is that Schadenfreude? It's certainly an offshoot, I imagine.
No, but it does remind me that I remember there was one famous Archbishop of Canterbury, I can't remember which one it was, but he was asked to describe what hell would be like and was able to do it in vivid detail. And said, well, what rewards can people look forward to in heaven? And all he could come up with was the pleasure of feeling superior to everyone who's in hell. It's so much harder to describe what heaven would actually be like in a
Yes.
way that doesn't make it sound really boring after a while.
Yes, what the state of constant existence and the fact that we have minds that are built over a 24-hour day. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get so bored very, very quickly of them.
The podcast got very serious very quickly, and I'm sorry about that.
No, but like, you know, imagine there, I'm up in heaven, I'm carrying on the podcast, and I finally, you know, by the time I'm up there, I imagine Paul is. I get to ask him all these questions, and then I ask him them all, and it's heaven. He answers them all, and then what? I've still got the rest of eternity. I guess I'll start that Ringo one then, right? Hello, folks, and welcome to Ringo or Nothing, the place to get all of your Ringo all of the time. That's a fun little alternative universe. But there actually is a Ringo podcast now, finally.
Is there? Oh, great.
Great. Ringo Rama, yeah. I do need to get back in touch with that kid, actually. So yeah, after your elitist version of Band on the Run, what have we got next?
Next, I might go Official Archive.
Oh no, fuck off. Oh no. I didn't want you to have that. I really didn't want you to have that.
So this is my archive edition of Flaming Pie, number 3280.
Out of how many?
Oh, I've got no idea.
7 billion. There was one for everyone.
I once had a CD of the original edition of Flaming Pie. God knows what became of it. It disappeared in the Great Purge of 2001.
You make it sound like Stalinist Russia, the Great Purge of Beatle material.
That's what it felt like.
all the high-ranking officers at MPL were summarily executed.
I don't know. I was entering a phase of my life where I felt like
were you self-conscious? Were you embarrassed by it?
Yeah, that's partly it. I felt like I had to gather and be an adult in some way that meant casting aside all things Beatles as though that belonged to childhood. And I now realize how stupid that way of thinking was. But it seemed right at the time, and maybe I needed to do it in order to do the things that I was moving into. But yeah, I've since come around to the view that adulthood and Beatles are not mutually exclusive.
No, that would be the scene, kind of 2/3, the low point of the movie, 2/3 of the way through, you discard the Beatles stuff, and then the last scene would be like you getting back into it again. Then we'd have a little denouement 10 years later, and then the collection would be growing again. Cut to black. Everyone would feel good again. So
yeah,
I'm just upset that I wasn't there to convince you otherwise, really, or at least exploit you for it and try and get it. And
you could have taken everything.
No, because like something I've noticed a little like run through, a little through line with these Beatle fans. They're only as loyal as they need to be until you start selling stuff, and then suddenly they are very interested in your collection outside of just being your friend. Like the flying hellfish in the Simpsons, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I chose Flaming Pie because you and I have discussed before how when I first became aware of Paul McCartney as an independent artist, Off the Ground was the most current album. And so Flaming Pie became the album that, as a Paul McCartney fan, I was first able to anticipate. And what an album
so
to look
good,
forward
yeah.
to, and what an album to suddenly get rewarded for, because I think it's one of the best in his whole collection.
No, see, I'm terrified that I'm going to come across someone who is in between our ages, and he's going to be like, "So yeah, my first album was Driving Rain." I'm like, "Oh
Oh,
no, can I give you a hug?" I'm so. My first introduction to Paul McCartney was Kisses on the Bottom. I had no idea who he was. I thought he was just this jazz guy, and then I was very disappointed when I checked out his back catalogue. Oh my
well,
God.
eventually, you know, the end point of this conversation is people a lot younger than us envying being around at a time when any of the Beatles were also alive.
Oh, then no,
It's going to
we're
get
gonna
to that
get
point.
so much pull with that in like 30 years because Paul ain't going nowhere. He ain't going
No.
nowhere.
Paul's going to outlive us, I think. He's getting younger by the day.
No,
He and Ringo are aging backwards, don't you think?
he does look genuinely good though. Ringo shockingly looks good. I mean,
I know.
obviously Ringo's got a little help from hair dye with that Paul is now finally
And
assumed.
there's other work going on. There's you know, collagen injections and things involved, I'm sure.
No, I do like both Ringo and Keith Richards' old ears with the heavy earrings they're wearing now. It does look very grotesque. That kind of like almost miniature cannonballs. Like just put a little diamond in, lads. Like you don't need to. Or like, oh, Ringo with stretchers would be fun. Like I could totally see that happening. Just like really big ones. Oh
It
my
does
gosh.
make you want to ask too that if those are what his earlobes are like, imagine what his scrotum must be like.
Oh my god. Look, lads, I'm sorry, just don't look. I'm crazy. No,
Anyway, sorry,
flame.
I'm getting a little bit too lewd.
I was going to say flaming pie though. In that, which version of that is there? So what knickknacks and tap do you get with that then?
Well, one of the things I really like, so you open it up and you see this, which was one of the iconic images of the Flaming Pie release. This is what was printed on the CD when it first came out. But I didn't realize until the archive edition that it's a
Oh,
detail from a René Magritte painting called L'idée fixe, like the fixed idea. And it's an example of how Paul is a lot more artistic than I think he gets credit for. I think one of the things that's happened as a result of the Lennon Remembers narrative subsuming the Fab Four narrative of the Beatles is that John got to jealously guard being the arty Beatle all to himself. But there are examples in this Flaming Pie box of where Paul is very arty on his own terms. And there's another really cool example of it on this Blu-ray disc or DVD. There's an amazing sequence, and it doesn't sound particularly compelling. It's just a video of Paul sitting in a meeting to discuss what the artwork for Flaming Pie is going to be.
Oh my god, that sounds fucking amazing.
I love it.
Oh my god.
It's maybe my favorite thing on this whole archive edition. And what I love most about it is just how invested he is and how he's able to use a lot of terminology, you know, a lot of cant that suggests he's really, really into aesthetics and really understands this stuff. And he's not just sort of looking at two versions of the cover and going, that one, he's coming with like semi-prepared stuff. And, you know, if you go through the original booklet of Flaming Pie, it has all these, what look like screen printed black and white photos, but then some quite vivid flowers or like red hot chili peppers and things in the corner. And those are all Paul's additions. And they're his attempt to suggest what the idea of hotness could be. Because obviously, if you have an album called Flaming Pie, there's going to be a fire on top of a pie somewhere in the iconography for this. But he also wanted to suggest heat in other ways. It chose a whole bunch of images of things which suggested or radiated heat to his way of thinking. So he's really into the aesthetic of albums. And I think this is a nice reminder of how into the visuals Paul can be.
Do you, I've just seen a connection as well. Isn't the actual album cover of the real Flaming Pie also a detail of a larger photo?
Yeah, quite possibly. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
It's so that one there.
Yeah, and then that's him on a guitar like that or something.
Yeah, I've got it here. Detail of
Hey,
that.
that's interesting. That's an interesting little connection.
Yeah, so that's
Oh my
the
gosh.
the
Oh, look
book
at
that
it.
comes with the archive, Flaming Pie release. Lots of photos of Paul and Steve Miller looking very middle-aged.
with that classic early 90s Beatles fashion. That's just atrocious. Just
I
atrocious.
know. What we called in our last podcast is the vest years or the waistcoat years. I can't remember.
If I ever meet Paul, I will ask him about that. Do you remember the waistcoat years? And like, oh yeah, I did used to wear all of them actually.
I'm not having a go. The waistcoat years I am very nostalgic for because A, it was when I really got into the Beatles, and B, we were spoiled for content. We got the anthology in the waistcoat years.
Yeah. I mean, there is going to come a point when critics are start going to saying the anthology series quaint by today's standards in terms of releases, and it's going to, in terms of future deep dives, like there's still stuff that we still haven't had, and the idea that not only did the Beatles kind of do it all the first time around, but they kind of reinvented the re-release as well, and the new content wave. The influence is never ending, and I have the anthology as something that was always in the peripheries of my my fandom, but to have it live and to have it hyped and know it was coming out, that's probably again that's second best to being alive back in '62.
That's right. That's right. Being able to look forward to Free as a Bird coming out, although that wasn't as much of a rewarding experience as Flaming Pie was for fans. It couldn't help but disappoint. I remember when I was able to listen to Free as a Bird being played on a local Australian radio show. And the moment it finished, they took calls from listeners. And I just remember a woman calling up just to say, John Lennon sounds like he's singing out of his grave. I thought, yeah, that's a pretty apt description.
Oh, that's funny. My gosh. Annoyingly now, though, whenever I hear whatever happened to the life that we once knew, all I can hear now is that annoying TikTok song, which is the sample of the original Shangri-Las.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no. Boom. I'm like, oh, God, I just hear free as a bird every time now.
Oh, dear.
Right. Item number 3. Let's go.
Okay. Item number 3. I'm going to go steer away from music. And I'm going to show you this. Let's see how jealous this makes you.
Ooh, is that a real Shea Stadium stub?
Well, I don't. I've grown suspicious of the extent to which this is an authentic Shea Stadium ticket. I think it looks too pristine.
Very, very, very good condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, I'll zoom in on, like, there's a D there.
Yeah.
With a section which looks like it's computer generated, as a lot of this ticket does. And of course, it existed at a time when computer printers didn't exist. So I suspect this is a reproduction, but I still like it nonetheless. And it was given to me for my birthday last year by a good friend. And yeah, that's another reason why I think it might be a fake, because I don't think he could afford to give me a real Shea Stadium ticket.
No, that's like the cubic zirconia of friendship there. That's,
but it's still a cool thing to have, even as a reproduction of a Shea Stadium ticket. I love that he found that and got it for me and took the time to frame it for me as well. Really
are those vinyl records as well?
Yeah, that's right. They're starting to slip a little bit, but they're pieces of vinyl record as the backing to the frame, which I thought was a really clever touch, and he did it himself.
I'm gonna steal that idea for a future art project. That's really cool. I like that. That's really awesome. fake stuff, folks. That could be something that I'd be interested in. Stuff of dubious authenticity. That's way more interesting than stuff that's confirmed. On the last episode, we had Dan Ely on it, and he's like, here's a certificate of authenticity from Denny Lane. Here's a certificate of authenticity from Jeff Britton to say that this bass is the bass that Paul played.
Yeah.
I want to see some outrageous claims, like, Paul cut his hair with these scissors for 27 years, and I won't hear anything else. I'll start the bidding at $20,000, please.
Paul and Linda used to cut their own hair in the early 70s, or cut each other's hair rather, and it was partly to be thrifty. It's one of those examples of the McCartney thriftiness where if you could just invest a little bit more energy into being a rock star, please.
No, I still, to this day, even on payday when I've got the money, I will still walk past the reduced section of a shop and just see, ooh, I didn't particularly want chicken and leek pie tonight, but this one's going for 18 pence. So I guess we're having it tonight. Sam, do you not want this nice, fresh new one right here? Nah, I need the bargain. I need it. And that's something that is so important to this show as well. The idea of getting certain items for maybe a lot less than what they're worth. I remember at university in Wolverhampton here in the UK, there was a records shop, and it seemed to have new owners every time I went in. It seemed to just change hands constantly, or there was just a ridiculous staff rota where like you could only get a shift a month there. But there was a copy of Aretha Franklin's Respect, an original pressing, and it's not worth millions or anything, but it's worth like 20 quid or something in like the right hands. I got it for like 20p. I was so happy. I left, but to do that, you've got to chuck in a bunch of other crap. Like I bought a second copy of Band on the Run. I got a copy of Jet on single. It just scattered it amongst this stuff to not arouse suspicion. But thanks to places like Discogs now, you don't really get that whole, oh, I didn't know this was worth something. It's like that's the first copy of the White Album there. Be careful with that.
That was sold by Ringo as part of his purge of Beatles memorabilia, wasn't it? Copy number 00000001.
My gosh,
I can't remember what it went for.
Yeah, no. Something I've always noticed: none of the Beatles memorabilia goes for nearly as much as I want it to. It'll be Harrison sells his classic Mini or something, and he got 580,000. Like, no, come on. He got 70 million for it. Come on, let's.
Come on, it was in both Magical Mystery Tour and in the anthology, and Harrison kind of recreated a moment from Magical Mystery Tour just for the anthology to show he still had the Mini. That alone is clearly going to push the price up to six figures, surely.
Why is the anthology not on Disney Plus right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they think because it was filmed in the 90s on video, the quality of the footage isn't good enough. I don't know. It's in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah, but they'll still play stuff from the 1920s. Those old Mickey cartoons. The quality is still all right on them. Old Steamboat Willie.
Well, once he's finished with Get Back, maybe Peter Jackson can restore the anthology footage, recut it, and put it in a 16:9 aspect ratio, and then it can go straight to Disney Plus as well.
But there's unused footage for the anthology as well, because there was what was it, Jeff Emmerich's rough early cut of all the footage or something, and that's leaked online, and that's got different scenes that don't appear in the final one, and there's the director's cut of the anthology as well. So
and then there's the unofficial anthology, which is fantastic. If no one's ever heard that.
Is that on YouTube or?
I think so. I think I certainly listened to bits of it on YouTube, but at one point in time it was a CD release, a very unofficial one called the Unofficial Authority, or the Alternative Anthology. Sorry.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, all of the things they didn't talk about.
It's just 3 hours of stories of John with the toilet seat around his neck, all that stuff. Item number 4, please.
Okay, number 4, I thought I would share my favorite Beatles book. And this is one that survived the purges of 2001.
Couldn't bring yourself.
A copy of the Beatles' complete scores.
For their movies?
No, this is...
Oh, it's the actual... Oh,
the actual
that's that fancy writing that I don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah. For every part, for every instrument played on every Beatles song. So
every instrument on every song.
Yeah. If you want to geek out about, the various horn parts in The Long and Winding Road, you can find the information here. Somebody once described this particular book as simultaneously too big and too small. Too small on the basis that, if you're actually trying to play from this score, it's tiny. It's really difficult to read. Too big on the sense that it's substantial enough that you can't place it on like a piano's musical stand and successfully play anything. But despite those two very obvious flaws, I adore this book and pore over it. Everything I've learned to play in the Beatles canon has been through this book. It's through this book I learned to play what they called the sneaky chord. If I had a guitar with me, I'd show you. And a lot of piano parts and bass parts. So, you really start to understand the Beatles musically once you've taught yourself how to play certain parts for the songs. And apart from anything else, a really authenticated source of what their actual lyrics are. Because sometimes, you go online and these things differ from site to site.
No, there was something on One Sweet Dream recently about 3 legs.
Yeah. So that was me hunting down as many official versions of lyrics as I could, because I became obsessed with wanting to know whether Paul intended for the 3-legged dog to run or not run. And, as is the way of these things, I found multiple official versions, both confirming and denying that the dog can run. The ones in Paul's handwriting say that the dog can run, but the official lyrics printed in the 2012 archive release of Ram say that the dog can't run. So I think the jury's out on this, and you can just listen to what he sings and make your decision for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't admit that it was piss off cake for about 3 decades, so who knows what obscurities have been put up here. But
yeah,
let's bring it around to a close. What is your final and 5th item in your attic?
My final and 5th item is a bootleg.
Yes, come on, let's do this.
My favorite one. I've already, put photos of this up on the One Sweet Dream site. But I'll show it to your Patreon supporters as well. So this is called Love is Long, the Ultimate Ram Anthology. And, I'm partly showing you this to promote our endless ongoing series of Ram episodes. Partly because this is another instance of something that I want Paul's archive editions to be. So let me tell you what you get in this, if people want to feverishly discog it and see if you can find a copy. So on disc 1, you have the basic tracks to all of the album's songs, plus the basic tracks for Another Day and Oh Woman, Oh Why. And you get Hey Diddle, instrumental backing, A Love For You outtakes, Road All Night session outtakes, Sunshine Sometime outtakes, Great Cock and Seagull Race instrumental outtake. On CD 2, you have the legendary mono version.
Oh, you get the mono, wicked.
Yeah, it's so good. Plus the mono version of Another Day and Oh Woman, Oh Why.
Oh, I didn't even know there were monos of them. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's just like a promotional single. You get all of the little Now Hear This Song of Mine promos, the Uncle Albert Jam from November 1970, backing track for Backseat of My Car and Long-Haired Lady, the Ram On complete take. So you know how on the album you have Ram On and Ram On Reprise? The They're actually both from one long take, and they play the whole take on CD 2.
How do I not know this, folks? How am I only just learning this in
Yeah.
2021? My gosh, that's my homework
And
for
the 2001 version of Three Legs that Paul played to promote the Wingspan documentary.
Yes.
CD3 is an example of being careful what you wish for, because it's this insane hybrid reconstruction of Ram overlaid on top of Thrillington. So both records are playing simultaneously. And it's awful. It's awful to listen to. It's too much information. It's too much of a glut of noise.
Who thought, like, maybe just putting the Paul vocal tracks over Thrillington, maybe?
That would have been much better than what they've done, which is just a sort of a cacophony of sound. Fortunately, like the time signatures and the keys remain the same.
Okay.
So it's not totally atonal, but it's just, you don't need to hear every track on RAM with a massive instrumental backing to it.
But it exists. It's there. It's another disc for the set.
Yeah, that's right. It's got an acetate mix of Another Day. It's got an isolated vocal track from Monkberry Moon Delight. And you can hear lots of little improvised vocal parts, especially towards the end that didn't make the final cut. An isolated piano track for Backseat of My Car. The Beatles' Get Back session where Paul was trying out Another Day from January 1969, if no one's heard that. The live versions from 1972 of Eat at Home and Smile Away, the James Paul McCartney version of Heart of the Country, and the Long-Haired Lady James Paul McCartney TV special version. There's my favorite thing on this probably is a DVD which has the whole album mixed in 5.1 surround with what somebody has put together as a kind of photo montage with little bits of video from time to time to accompany your 5.1 surround listening experience for RAM. So worth it just for that alone.
Like this really is putting the archive sets to shame already.
I know. This is everything that should have been on the archive edition and wasn't.
The only thing I would like on there purely for selfishness would be the Rupert the Bear version of Sunshine Sometime as well. Just to get the vocal on there as well. But that's one of those tracks that I love so much. I wouldn't mind if it even appeared on a Driving Rain box set.
Yeah. Anyway,
so where did you get that? How did you come across that?
I bought it on Discogs in 2018. And once or twice a year, I'll go in and look and see if it's still there. And it always just says sold out. So I don't know who made it and where you might possibly be able to get it. I'm not going to give up my version. But yeah, this is amazing. I love it. It's called Love Is Long, the Ultimate RAM Anthology. If you can ever find it.
Really is, folks. It really is the ultimate anthology there. I don't know what more could possibly exist because I was introduced to about 5 or 6 new things on there as well. So it definitely covers it. It.
The only thing that it doesn't have, and I've never seen or heard anywhere, is the 29 demos that were recorded for RAM prior to Paul and Linda disembarking in New York in October of 1970. I would love to hear those 29 demos, but I don't think anyone ever has.
75th anniversary. Come on.
Yeah, maybe they just don't exist anymore. Maybe this is from one of those eras where he was a lot more careless about these things and wiped them or lost them at some point in the last 50 years.
That'd be an interesting discussion. The lost Beatles stuff, the stuff that they know does not exist anymore. Like, how much B-roll for the Help and Hard Day's Night sessions, shoots would have been just the most fruitful bonus features on a future DVD. Sorry, what's a home release? These things don't even exist at this point. It's such a loss. And then when you consider things like like when there'll be like an MGM or Warner Brothers fire that'll just consume 10,000 movies from like the past 100 years. How many of those have happened with music as well? I think there was a huge data loss about 10 years ago, where just loads of archives were just lost. And to think that any Beatles stuff would ever be lost to the sands of time is just too much to bear. It really is. It really is.
Yeah, I hope somebody at EMI has done the work of digitally backing up all of the Beatles sessions. I'm sure they have. I'm sure it's just not a box of tapes sitting somewhere.
And like a paid person, not just some intern who's like there for the summer, and like he's just mislabeling them all for the benefit of Mr. Kipe or something like that. Well, whatever it's called, I don't know. Right, dude. Thank you for taking me through your attic there. Those were some fun items there.
Good.
That RAM one though, blow me away. I can't believe you had that. You are so lucky there. Is it available online anywhere sneakily, or do you know?
I don't know. Like the thing to Google would be Paul and Linda McCartney, Love Is Long, the Ultimate Ram Anthology, and see if you can find it. Maybe somebody's selling it on eBay somewhere, but I suspect like me, those who have it don't want to give it up.
So, what out there exists that you want to add to your collection? Is there anything that currently evades you? Do you wish you had $1,000 to spend on a George Harrison All Things Must Pass box set? Or
no, I wouldn't mind putting some of those gnomes in my garden, but to be honest, there isn't actually that much that exists that I wish I had. There's a part of me that would like to get a shitty little record player, just a sort of a portable one, and a set of reproduced 45s of all the Beatles singles in their original packaging. So I know that they re-released the singles not that long ago, but I kind of felt like it's another one of these instances of Apple doing something that's neither one thing nor the other. So they reproduced faithfully all the British A and B sides, but all of these covers are sort of
new
global versions from around the place. I wanted to have all of the original Parlophone paper sleeves and then the black Apple ones for the last few. If it had been like 100% authentic reproduction, I would have actually bought a record player just to be able to reproduce that experience. So I would love that to exist. I'd love to have.
I was just going to say, sorry, that's clearly someone at Apple, some new intern again, someone on the board going, hey, let's not do it properly. Let's like do something new and fun and hip and young. It'll have a hashtag, you know. What a terrible idea. No, sorry, carry on. I don't have to get there.
I was just saying to add to that, I'd love to be able to play flexi discs of all of the Beatles Christmas recordings. That would be wonderful to be able to hear. I've found websites where you can listen to MP3 versions of them, but yeah, I'd love to be able to put the stylus down on an old-fashioned flexi disc of those. I'd love to hear Carnival of Light at some point in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's just a BitTorrent that someone gives me the link to. It's all highly illegal, but I'd love to hear that. I don't know. What about you? What are you keen to get your hands on?
That copy of Chobber, like I say, I would love a copy of some of the needlessly controversial and shocking Beatles bootlegs, like Beatles White Power or Beatles versus the Third Reich, just so I can go, look at this. This is mental, isn't it? What else do I want? I might actually just like to complete my actual collection, to actually just complete my Paul McCartney collection, because as you get towards the 90s, those original pressing vinyls suddenly become a lot rarer and a lot more expensive. I mean, Off the Ground's probably going to be one of my bigger investments. Same with like Flaming Pie, Driving Rain. But then the more modern you get, it actually gets quite affordable again. Thanks to the old vinyl boom. I mean, Fireman stuff, that on vinyl, gonna have to remortgage a house for that. I'm not even sure if any of the classical stuff is available on vinyl. It's probably not, is it? It's just CD, I imagine.
I don't know. I had an original CD of the Liverpool Oratorio. Don't know where that went. I had Standing Stone when it first came out. That's disappeared as well.
Speaking of artwork, that by the way, that's a bad one, Standing Stone. Paul did not have much of a hand in that one, hopefully.
Well, I think that's one of Linda's photos. I think that's a photo that you also see on the gatefold of McCartney. I think it's literally the same photo, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have stayed there. Right, dude. Thank you so much for coming back on. This isn't going to be the last time. Hopefully, we're going to have you back on for something a bit more substantial. But thank you for just taking me through a little tour through your attic, through your collection.
Yeah. Sorry, it was pretty cool pickings.
No, I like the idea that this is a redemption arc of a collector. So,
The has started again at a very modest scale now. We'll see what happens over time.
Yeah, you like that Greek figure who pushes the boulder up the hill, and then Sisyphus. Yes. This has been a very Sisyphean episode of Macca in Your Attic, folks. I've been Sam. This has been Dr. Duncan Driver, who has kindly joined me once again. Go check out the One Sweet Dream podcast. Links will be down below as per the norm. But yeah, play us out, Danny. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.